Welcome to the video for the trust follow-up. So this we'll be doing after lesson 4. As usual, we just want to re-emphasize the importance of why we do these one-on-one meetings with everybody. First, it really highlights our commitment to intentional accompaniment and to making sure that everybody gets the opportunity to be seen and heard individually, that we minister with a one person at a time mentality, which is one of the hallmarks of CCO's ministry. But it also gives us a chance to make sure that we hear the struggles and the growth and the successes of each individual person. They get a chance to share about those, and we get to kind of dive into that a little bit with each person. It can be easy sometimes to hide in the group, especially if maybe you're a more quiet person, or if you just don't quite feel comfortable in sharing, then maybe you try to make sure that you're never the one that's heard over the course of the lessons. But maybe you actually have some real things. In fact, I would suspect most participants have real things that they're wrestling with as they go through these lessons. So in the one-on-one, hopefully it's creating another safe environment for them to be able to share freely. And in this case, we're going to talk to them about a great tool called the Examine of Consciousness. I know this is a tool you're really passionate about and you use a lot in your own ministry. Just want to share as well, just before Holly kind of teaches us about it, that for you as the leader, this would be a great thing. If you're not already using the Examine in your daily life, it might be a great thing to start doing that a little bit before you go into the follow-up process, so that you have a little bit of experience to share from when you sit down and teach this to the people in your study. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, we'll have Holly teach us a little bit about how to use the Examine.
Yeah, and our hope in the video is sort of like a commercial, like that you would want to do the Examine and you would be someone who wants your participants to want to do the Examine. The Examine, it might not have an exciting title like the Examine of Consciousness, but the beauty of the Examine is actually discovering God's providence in our day and his pursuit of us in our day, and taking pause to observe that accelerates the growth in the spiritual life. And that's what I love about the tool. And we've actually made a really simple version for our trust participants with 5 sections. One is that we begin by welcoming the Holy Spirit, which shouldn't be new for our participants because, of course, they've been through Source, and we've been talking about that it's critical to lean into the Holy Spirit as a way of growing as a Christian. So starting, we welcome you, Holy Spirit, come and show me about my day, come and reveal to me the things I've lived. Step 2, we review the day. A quick way of teaching that is just, if your day was like a movie, how my spiritual director taught me is you kind of ask the Lord for the movie trailer of your day, like show me the trailer of my day. And it's exciting. It makes it a bit like your day was exciting, even if you're just at the office, that you would ask the Lord to show you the colorful adventure that you lived that day, the things that hurt you, the things that offended you, things that confused you, the things where you felt really close to God and really loved and seen and noticed, and that you process those through step 3 and 4, which are to thank God for the grace of becoming aware of those movements and those interior emotions, to ask for his help, to understand even more deeply, like, yeah, why did I feel so close to you there? What was going on underneath of the surface? You might discover a charism that's there. You might discover a real source of love from God, that he's loving you in a particular relationship or in a particular way. And that, of course, leads to the last step of strengthening that. Like, if every day I'm walking by the river, and when I examine my life at the end of the day and I really felt so loved by God every time I walk by the river, well, then I kind of should think about making a plan to walk by the river as much as possible right now in this season, because he's really just loving me through that scene right now. How beautiful, how intimate and dynamic is God. And that's such a simple exercise of just examining the day helps us to catch what he's up to and build on it. In the same way that we would thank him for the struggles, the pain points that we lived, the desolations or the shortcomings or the lies. And at this place, this exercise is really relevant because, of course, it's built upon the teachings that we've done about the enemies and the world, the flesh, and the devil. It's built upon learning about consolations and desolations. So we have common vocabulary and framework to actually challenge them to do this exercise. And I find it so, just as a director and even as an accompanier in the trust study, it's so exciting for people to actually survey their day. Building the habit is really the hardest part, but once they're doing the exercises, it's like you want to keep doing it because you keep uncovering what God is doing in your day and discovering how he's at work in your life. And you can come and bring that to others, like a director or a Paul or a spiritual peer, where you can say, I want to talk to you about some patterns I'm noticing, which then leads to the particular examine, which is a piece of the follow-up that you can teach, can help strengthen a particular area that you feel the Lord calling you to grow in. So in the leader's guide, we speak to an example of someone who might be struggling to speak about God, or that they're even in a faith study in the public sphere, and that maybe consistently as they're examining their day, this is something that comes up in the movie trailer. Remember that time when you were in the calf and someone said, where were you today? And you said, studying. And he just reminds you that you didn't answer where you really were. And that might be because you're afraid of how you're going to be received. So if he keeps kind of talking to you about that in the movie trailer of your day, and it's something that he wants to speak to you about, then in a particular way, this is where the particular examine comes in. You can add this to your examine every night and say, okay, Lord, so today I want to thank you for the times where you made me aware that there was an opportunity for me to witness to you. I want to thank you for the ways I responded to your grace, and I actually chose to say, you know what, I was in a small group faith study actually at that time, and it's something I'm really enjoying in my week. And then you want to take note of the interior emotions that you had, and with your participants that they had in that time, because very likely, if that was a particular area God wanted to strengthen in them, and they responded to the grace he gave, there's consolation. He's very aware, as a father is, of how to like reward and encourage and strengthen his children. And then that's where, the particular examine becomes such a useful tool. So we want to cast vision for both, for the participants in the follow-up, and allow it to inform our future accompaniment of them. Because now we have a common language. We can say, how's the examine going? Do you have a particular examine that's emerged? Do you want accountability or help in anything? And it really helps us to set the stage for that with them.
And this could be great, the particular examine, like for example, with the Isaacs that they've identified as they've gone along, that this can be an opportunity for them to say, okay, I've identified that this is a particular thing that I struggle to trust God in, or that I would struggle to be able to give this up if God asked it of me. And if that's been something that's been identified through the reflections that they've been doing after each lesson, and as they've gone through this study, then that could be the particular examine could be a great opportunity to help encourage them to say, well, you've noted, and again, this is your accompaniment, you've shared actually a few times here that you're struggling with such and such. I'm really struggling with people knowing that I'm a Christian, and that I go to mass every weekend, and I'm afraid to be known as the Catholic guy. And so then, okay, like, well, now this is an Isaac for you, perhaps. So then you can use the particular examine as a way to be able to look daily, not just have kind of this vague idea of I should work on that, but actually daily, how am I progressing? And I know we talked when we were preparing about, like, it's an exercise.
It's an exercise,
right? And so it really is just like going to the gym. There's a repetition that's important. If you just go to the gym once or twice a year, it's not really going to have much of an effect.
That's right.
But if you go on a regular basis and you're constantly working something out, and in this case working out these Isaacs, then you can actually see the growth happening, and then you can identify it and track it day to day.
And even building upon that muscle idea of exercise, you'll notice in the moment the invitations from God, like, because if you're examining every night, it informs you to act differently the next day, right? And you'll be able to be more sensitive to his invitations. So Michael, any other tips for the leaders as they prepare for the follow-up, like for all their participants?
So you're going to have a variety of people in your group, as we've talked about throughout the videos, that you're going to have some people who are really, engaged in a daily prayer life. They're pursuing holiness. They really are living that Christ-centered relationship. And for others, you might have in your study that they actually haven't experienced conversion. They don't have a daily prayer life, but yet there's still something in them that's seeking the spiritual, because they keep coming back. Keep coming back to these lessons. Maybe they've done all the faith studies, so there's a hunger in them. There's something there, but it hasn't yet they haven't found the tipping point for themselves. Maybe the examine can be part of that, because I think we had a little bit of discussion of, do you share the examine with people who are not yet living that, daily prayer life, that dynamic pursuit of holiness, or is it too much? But we felt like, actually this could be the potential of a real tipping point for them where they say, I didn't realize God was moving that way in my life on a daily basis. Because as they go through the examine process, it gets them into the mindset of thinking, is God moving in my life today? And of course, if they just sit down and examine it, honestly, they're going to see, yes, he is. And that might actually convince them that living the Christ-centered life makes sense because God is real. He's tangible. He's moving in my life. And so it might bring them to a new understanding of God's daily providence and of his daily presence in their lives in a way they just never
How
expected.
personal and intimate he actually is, right?
That's
And,
right.
and that might be hard. They may be like, this exercise actually illustrates that and gives them that encounter that they need
Exactly.
to believe.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we really do encourage you, teach everyone, but then tailor it to each person. Knowing that if they're the person who's got that daily prayer life and is really pushing forward in holiness, to share, say, this is a tool that can accelerate your growth. But for those that maybe aren't yet, engaged in that daily pursuit of holiness, that daily prayer life, to be able to say, this might be a tool that can help engage that in you and ignite the desire for that to happen.
No, I totally agree. That's all for the video on the follow-up, and we'll see you again at lesson 5.